Hello and welcome to another editorial discussion of the Hindu. So today is 17th of February, Tuesday, 2026, and here is the editorial discussion of the Hindu. So it is basically on India's federalism, which has been written by M.K. Stalin, who is the current sitting chief minister of the Tamil Nadu. He is actually trying to he is actually trying to highlight the issue of is a structural change into the Indian federalism. Okay, so let us dive into this discussion. And you know that this federalism kind of questions often asked in GS paper 2. Okay, so for the prelims perspective, you need to just understand center-state relationship and certain articles which are important. Okay, otherwise it is not very much important from the prelims perspective, but it is very much important from the perspective of the mains. So let us explore the discussion. Okay, just a minute. So before starting, I would like to tell that we are going to approach, like I will be in the way that I will be reading all these things, the entire editorial. Okay, and I will highlight those things which you can emphasize upon, or you can write in your notes. Okay, so let us start. So the Constitution of India, while a federal in structure, was designed with a pronounced centralizing bias. Yes, all of us know that there is a centralizing bias. How? So there are different provisions which highlight this. For example, you have emergency provision, you have all India services. Okay, so these are the unitary kind of thing that is there. Drawing heavily from the Government of India Act 1935, it concentrated significantly it concentrated significant authority in the New Delhi while assigning a comparatively modest sphere to the states. This architecture was shaped by the circumstances of its word, the trauma of partition, the integration of 14 provinces and over 500 princely states, and the pervasive fear that centrifugal forces might shred national unity. In that climate, centralization appeared not merely prudent but also indispensable. Yet, even in those anxious deliberations, there were voices of rare clarity. K. Santhanam cautioned the Constituent Assembly that the union's strength lies not in indiscriminate accumulation of functions, but in the disciplined refusal of responsibility that do not properly belong at the national level. It is in this position, it is in this positive as well as negative delimitation of powers that a real federal system rests. He observed. In that single formulation lay two enduring principles. First, authority is most effective when exercised closest to the knowledge and accountability. And second, excessive centralization breeds fragility by overburdening a single authority with tasks that it cannot efficiently discharge. A government that attempts to supervise everything from exploration to rural sanitation may expand in reach, but this inevitably dismisses its effectiveness. Okay, so basically, it is trying to highlight this is the work of the central government that it is trying to do the space exploration as well as rural sanitation. Okay, so in a way, he's criticizing the union government. Okay, so reinforcement of dominance. History demonstrate that power assumed in the name of necessity. Okay, so ये बोलते हैं कि हिस्ट्री जो है बताता है हमें कि पावर जो है वो जो है नेसेसिटी के नाम पे जो है क्या किया जाता है, उसको एज्यूम किया जाता है. रेयरली रिट्रीट्स व्हेन नेसेसिटी फेड्स. और बहुत ही रेयर होता है कि ये जो है पावर जो है इसको रिट्रीट किया जाता है. ओके, in the decades that follow, centralizing tendencies were reinforced by the dominance of single national party at the union and the state levels. Okay, उसके बाद ये बोलते हैं कि जो सेंट्रलाइजिंग टेंडेंसी जो थे उसको रीइंफोर्स किया गया था by the dominance of a single national party. You know that is the Congress, Indian National Congress at the union and the state level, fostering a high command culture and attenuated the autonomy of state leadership. Later, the emergence of coalition governments at the union and the rise of regional parties in the states led to a more balanced federal order without endangering unity. One may reasonably surmise that had today's political mature and the linguistically consolidated state existed in 1950, the constitution design might have evolved along a more decentralized path. Just as an individual cannot remain perpetually captive to the nooses of childhood, uh, uh, neurosis of childhood, so too a nation cannot forever labor under the anxieties of its formative years. India's unity is no longer fragile, and the idea of India now rests on firm and enduring foundations. Yet, 76 years later, constitutional practice continues to reflect the reflexes of the late 1940s. Centralization was defended as a necessity, has hardened into habit. Through successive constitutional amendments, expansive union legislation in the concurrent list subjects, conditional finance commission transfers, and centralizing sponsored schemes with rigid templates, the balance of power has tilted even further toward the union. Okay, so balance of power has now been tilted even forward further toward the union. How? So through successive constitutional amendments, okay, then expensive union legislation in the concurrent list, and then conditional finance commission transfers and centrally sponsored schemes with rigid templates. Large ministries exist in New Delhi that duplicate state functions and often attempt to steer state priorities through micromanagement and procedural oversight. In an inversion of democratic hierarchy, the union executive is attempted to override plenary state laws in concrete list subjects through subordinate legislature. It is a principle. Such a drift sits uneasily with constitutional doctrine in SR Bommai versus Union of India 1994, the Supreme Court of India declared federalism. The Supreme Court of India declared federalism as a part of constitution's basic structure and affirmed that states are not mere appendages of the center but are supreme within their allotted spheres. Federalism, the court held, is a principle rooted in India's history and diversity, not a matter of administrative convenience. Despite this judicial affirmation, state autonomy has continued to erode through legislative expansion, executive overreach, and certain other judicial interpretations that privilege uniform national solutions over contextual diversity. Underlying this trajectory is a persistent illusion that the union becomes stronger by diminishing the states. In truth, the union and the states are not competitors in a zero sum context, they are partners in a shared constitutional enterprise. India's size and heterogeneity render centralized policy design inherently limited. No authority in New Delhi, however enlightened, can tailor policy with equal sensitivity to every linguistic region, agriculture, ecology, industrial cluster, or labor market. Decentralization addresses this limitation by enabling parallel experimentation. States can design and test policies at manageable scale, contain failures without national disruption, and allow successful innovations to diffuse horizontally or to be adopted nationally. Many of India's most effective programs followed precisely this path. Tamil Nadu's noon meal scheme, Kerala's achievements in public health and literacy, Maharashtra's employment guarantee initiative all began as state experiments before informing national policy. Over centralization surpasses the very diversity of strategies from which innovation and discovery arise. Centralists often argue that states lack administrative and technical capacity and therefore require union intervention. Yet, such intervention stunts the very capacity it claims to remedy, creating a self perpetuating cycle of dependence. Parents who do not entrust their children with responsibility and leaders who refuse to delegate authority inevitably breed dependence. Governments are no exception. Capacity arises from responsibility, accountability, and the freedom to make and correct mistakes. To suggest that many comparable in scale to sovereign nations, are inherently incapable and must therefore be subjected to intrusive central control is incompatible with national self-respect. Centralization might still be defended if it had delivered superior outcomes, but by comparison with decentralized federations, global benchmarks, or India's own aspirations, the record is unpersuasive. The centralized model has struggled to deliver universal access, sustained quality, genuine equity, or global competitiveness. Instead, it has produced regulatory complexity, chronic underfunding as resources are stretched across expanding mandates, blurred accountability, and gradual erosion of state capacity. Tamil Nadu recognized these dangers at an early stage. In 1967, CN Anna Durai observed that the union must indeed be strong enough to maintain the sovereignty and integrity of India. But that did not mean that it should assume control over every state, such as health or education, which bore no direct nexus to national defense. His successor, Kleiner M. Karunanidhi, advanced this philosophy through the maxim autonomy to the state, federalism at the center, and in 1969 established first independent committee on union-state relations under Justice P.P. Raja Mannar. The committee's 1971 report became a landmark in India's federal debate. Later, National Commission, the Sarkaria 1983-88, Punji 2007 to 10 acknowledged the need for rebalancing, though they stopped short of recommending fundamental structural reform. Time to right size. India now stands at a constitutional juncture that calls for recalibration rather than complacency. The objective is not to weaken the union but to right size it, allowing it to concentrate on genuinely national responsibility while restoring the state the autonomy essential for effective governance. Such recalibration would not diminish national unity, it would deepen it by aligning authority with responsibility. In this aspect, Government of Tamil Nadu constituted a high-level committee on union-state relations in April 2025 under the chairmanship of Justice Kurian Joseph, a retired Supreme Court judge, with K. Ashok Vardhan Setti, a retired IAS officer, and Mr. M. Naganatham, former State Planning Commission Vice Chairman, as members thought of as non-partisan exercise. The committee undertook a comprehensive review of contemporary federal challenges. Part 1 of its report, which was submitted on February 16, 2026, addresses issues that range from the role of governor and language policy to delimitation, elections, education, health, and goods and services tax. The government of Tamil Nadu presents this report to the public in the hope that it will stimulate informed debate, restore balance to the Union-State relationships, and contribute to a constitution a stalemate in which the union is strong because it is focused and the states are strong because they are interested. So that's all for this. Now let us see. So not much important. Okay, because they have just criticized the center. Okay, so we cannot have the criticism all around in your answer. So don't use these things in writing answers or things. Now this is important. A separate classification for denotified tribes. Now let us understand this one, because if you see the prelims examination, then there was a question. I think 2 or 3 times in last 5 years on the tribe. They are asking questions from the Schedule 5, Schedule 6, and particularly the tribal issues. So, what is the story? On January 30, the Union government assured community leaders from denotified nomadic and semi-nomadic tribes that the Office of Registrar General and the Census Commissioner of India had agreed to enumerate these communities in the upcoming second phase of the census due in 2027. However, with no clarity on how this enumeration will be conducted, leaders of these communities are organizing to push for their demand for a separate column for denotified nomadic and semi-nomadic tribes, that is DNT, in the census form. This demand has found support from academics and scholars who have noted that the demand for a census count of denotified nomadic and semi-nomadic tribes has been reiterated time and again by successive commissions that have been set up to examine their condition in society. Who are DNTs? DNTs means denotified. Okay, it is not notified, it is denotified and then N stands for nomadic, and then some and T for tribe. Okay, semi-nomadic tribes. So the communities referred to as denotified nomadic and semi-nomadic tribes were at one point classified as criminal. Okay, at one point classified as criminal by colonial administrators, but concluded that there was certain communities addicted to committing crimes. This was codified in the Criminal Tribes Act (CTF) first introduced in 1871, the same year that synchronized censuses began in India. The Criminal Tribes Act 1871 was introduced for the registration and surveillance and control of certain criminal tribes and indulges describing criminal tribes as a tribe, gang, or class of persons that are addicted to committing non-valuable offences. While introducing the legislation, then member of Law Order T.V. Stephens had said that the special feature of India is the caste system. Keeping this in mind, the meaning of professional criminal is clear. It means a tribe whose ancestors were criminals from times immemorial, who are themselves destined by the usages of the caste to commit crime, and whose descendants will be offenders against the law. It was only in 1952 that the government of India officially repealed the Criminal Tribe Act, which had by that time been amended a couple of times. The repeal of the act had led to the denotification of communities classified as criminal under the city, leading to these groups becoming known as DNTs. However, in the same year, India saw the introduction of various habitual offender laws throughout the states, which while doing away with the hereditary definition of people being compelled to commit crimes, classified certain people as habitual offenders, leading to the continued targeting of these communities, this time not as criminal but as habitual offenders. Okay. What is the history of their enumeration? While both CTA and synchronous censuses in India began in 1871, it was from 1911 onwards the census reports started discussing criminal tribes specifically. Okay, so I think this much is important that we not much things are important. Okay, so just you need to understand the who are there. Okay, that we already understood that these were the group, their ancestors were actually classified as the criminals by the Britishers. Okay, so the communities referred to as denotified nomadic and semi-nomadic tribes were at one point classified as criminal by colonial administrators who had concluded that there were certain communities addicted to committing crimes. Okay, so that is why this much you need to understand. In 1998, author Maha Shweta Devi and scholar G.B. Danvi constituted the Notified Nomadic and Semi-Nomadic Tribe Section Group, the work of which had led to a technical advisory group on DNT, eventual focus of the first National Commission for. Okay, eventually also rolled out. Okay, I think this much is important. So distinctly you have. Let us see, is there anything more which is important for our examination perspective? So not much important thing. Let us see the world news. Okay. Before that, see the business. This business news. Basically, it is about the economy. Okay. So first thing we need to see here is the NPCI. So National Payment Corporation of India extends UPI One World to AI Summit Foreign Visitor. National Payments Corporation of here. Let me zoom it. Yes, I think now it is clear. National Payments Corporation of India (NPCI) has announced the extension of UPI One World wallet services for international visitors from over 40 countries attending the India AI Impact Summit 2026 from February 16 to 20 in New Delhi. Through this pilot initiative, inbound foreign travelers will be able to make seamless, secure, and real-time person-to-merchant UPI payment during their visit to India, the NPCI said in a statement. Okay. Unemployment in India rose slightly to 5% in January. Government. Okay, then you have IIFL finance to raise to 2000 crore through NCDs. Okay, not important. India in demand by both developed countries and the global south. Then you have high demand for domestic AI infrastructure. NASA AI CEO. Okay, then it is waiting to weekend relief kicks in. Then you have here you have the world phase. Japan protests Chinese diplomats' comment on reviving militarism. Then Bangladesh Union announces resignation and end of interim government. Then Nepal launches campaign for first post-uprising parliamentary polls. West Bengal land deregistration move by Israel withdraws Arab nations flock. Hasina's presence will not be a deterrent to India's ties. Bangladesh will expedite the projects that are in its interest, says Mirza Fakhrul Islam Alangi's generous. We believe Hasina really committed to serious human rights violations, but not handing her over will not be a deterrent to build a broader relations with India. Says okay. So let us see. This is not much important, but we can just have some understanding. Bangladesh's relationship with India will not be captive to one issue, and the presence of deposed Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina in India will not deter Bangladesh from pursuing its broader relation with India, said the senior most leader of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party (BNP), which won the February 2012 election. So it is nothing new. This is expected. Okay, so a foreign relation does not center to one particular issue. Okay, Iranian mock-up imitating a U.S. aircraft carrier being encircled by speedboats during a trip near the Strait of Hormuz. Uh, Arakchi in Geneva for talks as IRGC begins drills near the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, so let us see this one. This is important. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi arrived in Geneva for second round of nuclear talks with the US and technical discussion with the International Atomic Energy Agency amid heightened tension in the Persian Gulf as Washington has sent a second aircraft carrier to the region threatening to use force against the Islamic Republic if diplomacy fails. While the US and the Iran are expected to hold talks mediated by Oman in the Swiss city on Tuesday, that rebel forces of Islamic Revolutionary Guard (IRGC) have started military drills near the Strait of Hormuz, a key choke point that connects the Persian Gulf. Okay, Strait of Hormuz that connects the Persian Gulf with the Arabian Sea through the Gulf of Oman. Okay, so remember this one. So this question has been asked in the PPSC prelims, 71st PPSC prelims, which held, I think, in August 2025. Okay, so Persian Gulf. So they have asked that the direct question was that the Strait of Hormuz connects which of the following. Okay, so it connects what, the Persian Gulf with the Arabian Sea through Gulf of Oman. Having Geneva with the real ideas to achieve a fair and equitable deal. What is not on table? Submission before the states. Okay. Now, so that much is important. I think we have ended uh, all major discussion which can be helpful for our examination perspective. Okay, so let us stop here. So next video will start the discussion of the Indian exam. Okay.